Hi everybody, welcome to the Dozuki workshop series. We're just going to take a minute to check all of our levels, make sure everybody's streaming, audio, video, everything is good to go, and then we'll just start in a couple minutes. But in the meantime, Stephen, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Gemba Academy, where your your background and everything.
Yeah, I work for Gemba Academy, and we produce and provide online Lean and Six Sigma training. So our model is, we sell subscriptions to the website where we have 650 videos on Lean and Six Sigma, the great videos on how it's applied in factories and other businesses. My background, I've got a degree in philosophy from the University of California, Santa Cruz.
What a well-rounded background you have.
Yeah, it makes me think of something Steve Jobs said in a commencement speech at Stanford once, and that when looking at your life, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can looking back. And philosophy I think fits so well with Lean, because one of the disciplines of Lean is always asking why. Why do we do this? Why are we doing these things this way? Yeah. And I have a degree in why. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Always good to have another humanities background in English, and so we're definitely of the same cloth, always analyzing and great stuff for sure. Well, today, thank you so much everybody for your patience and for joining us. We're so excited for our October Dozuki workshop series. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're happy to have you. If you're coming in again, we're old pals and I'm excited to see you. So again, Dozuki workshop series. Today's going to be a little bit different. We have the 5S, the Launchpad to Lean. And with us today, we've got Steve Kane, the Learn Guru, as you are reading correctly, from Gemba Academy. Is that your actual title, the Lean Guru?
Well, I think of myself as a student of Lean, a Lean practitioner, and I like to share ideas.
Yeah.
So, something about Lean is, I don't consider myself an authority on it, but just a kind of a lifelong student.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guru is a fantastic word to have in your title.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Kate Emma Smith, the director of this, the hostess of the Dozuki workshop series, as well as the director of outreach for Dozuki in general. And so you might have seen just articles that we've written or those email campaigns and stuff. This is your gal right here. And you can feel free to contact me at either kate@dozuki.com or on Twitter at kateemma.smith. And then Stephen, again, Lean Guru, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself for those of you who might have missed our chit-chat earlier.
Sure. Well, my education is, I have a degree in philosophy, which is, I think really works well with Lean because it's, I like to ask why a lot. I got my first exposure to Lean in the motorcycle industry where I managed supply chain. And when I went into medical device manufacturing, that's where I discovered there was a discipline and a study behind it, and there were worldwide organizations in support of it. And then I really started studying, read a lot of books, attended seminars. I learned from people that I worked with. So that's kind of how I got into Lean, and that really, I developed my passion when I was actually moved into a leadership position, and it was my job to teach Lean to other people.
Yeah. Great. Well, good. You're going to be teaching a lot of people today. And for those of you who would like to contact Stephen either during this workshop or maybe perhaps later on, feel free to email him at stephen@gembaacademy.com or on Twitter. Is that you behind the Gemba Academy handle or the company?
Oh, actually, no. Our marketing person is there, but all of that will get fed right to me.
So feel free to connect and network with either or of us. And so, just so you guys know, before we do get started, we do love engaging audiences here at Dozuki and at the Dozuki workshop series. And so a couple tips how you can engage with us live is either type out your questions in the message interface, whether it's questions, comments, clarifications, whatever it is, feel free to send it over to us. Stephen and I are going to do our best to answer every question throughout the workshop, but if we get a little too many, we can't get to all of it, don't worry, we'll comb through and respond to you after the session has wrapped. And then again, feel free to email myself or Stephen directly on our emails that you saw earlier. So today, we have quite the roadmap. We're pretty excited. We're going to go through about 7 different major points. And again, like all the Dozuki workshop series, we're casting a pretty broad net. So if you're unsure what 5S is, don't worry, we're going to get to that. Or if you're already not you're already kind of versed in the field, don't worry, we've got stuff for you too. So for every audience member who's at different experience levels, don't worry about it. The roadmap is going to include, as you can see, 1, the 10 commandments of lean, the 7 wastes, the mysterious 8th waste, we'll see what that is, 5S origin and overview, number 5, time 5S to lean initiatives, number 6, getting started, and then of course 7, we will have some questions, a good forum for everybody to get in those last minute Q&As. All right, so let's start with just what 5S is and why is 5S a great lean starting point?
Well, the 5S is, I mean, to put it really, really simply, I mean, it's kind of making things all nice, neat and clean, orderly, and then developing the discipline to sustain that and improve it.
Great.
And it's a great starting point for lean because the fundamentals of 5S really are the fundamentals of lean enterprise. And we'll get to that into some detail later on, but it's really about the discipline of sustaining continuous improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for the folks out in the audience, we are going to ask a little poll to see where everybody's at. So you'll see that pop up on your screen in just a second. We just want to know, have any of you ever done a 5S audit? So just let us know, and we kind of want to gauge where everyone's at. So thanks for answering that. Okay, so again, why 5S is a great lean starting point. You're talking about other lean concepts. So maybe perhaps what are those other concepts you might anticipate?
Well, it's simple process improvement, and it's really easy to use manufacturing. Although lean is applicable everywhere, manufacturing is really easy. I think most people kind of get what's going on. Right. So to improve a process, you want greater efficiency. For instance, maybe you want to reduce some defects within a process. Well, 5S, I think it is a great starting point because, first of all, it's visual and it reflects your culture and your discipline, your standards. So if you have the culture of continuous improvement, it's shown in your workplace. Is it clean? Is it neat? Do you have your standards where they need to be? I think that just the discipline to be able to follow 5S is really what's necessary in order to take those same fundamentals and start to apply them to more complex processes or concepts.
Okay, definitely. And then what do you mean by visual and intimate, though, when you're using those terms? Well,
it's immediate. I mean, if you walk into a room, if 5S has been applied, well, you can tell immediately how organized the room is or the enterprise is. I kind of think you also get an idea for the standards, right? So imagine you had to walk into an operating room. You were a patient, you were about to be operated on, and a doctor walked in and said, "Where's the scalpel again?" Yeah. So immediately your trust for their ability to do anything well is diminished, even though you might have the best people, right? So remember, we're talking about organizations, right? Organizations of people, and to get a group of people to perform well, that means everybody has to perform to a standard. They have to work as a team. So it's about really understanding what everybody's doing. Okay. So when you walk into some place that's really neat and clean, you see the standard right away, and it kind of exudes. It tells you what the expectations are really of the organization.
Great. So definitely the fundamentals of 5S are the fundamentals of lean. Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
According to our awesome expert here today. Absolutely. Well, so talking about lean, the 10 commandments of lean. This seems to be this is definitely a note-taking moment. We better write these down.
So before we got into, we really get into 5S and what the 5S's are, I wanted to talk briefly about the 10 commandments and the 7 ways to kind of put 5S in context. Okay. So really the spirit of lean, the first thing is open your mind to change, right? Because lean is all about continuous improvement. Right? Yeah. It's about adding value for your customer, for your stakeholders, and improving that always. And continuous improvement necessarily implies continuous change. Yeah. So if you're not open to change, then you're shutting down improvement. Yeah. Right? So open your mind to change and have a positive attitude. Think, yes, we can. And so if you have a team of people, make sure there's always an optimist on the team.
Definitely.
Right, because you're going to encounter obstacles, and it'll be obstacle after obstacle, and you have to believe that there's always a way. You can get around your obstacle, go over it, go under it, go through it, whatever it takes, but find a way.
Yeah. Have you is there any maybe tips for perhaps staff members of companies who are very resistant to change? How kind of getting them out of that, no, this is how we've always done it, I don't want to, it's going to get worse, or whatever excuses they make. Is there maybe some good strategies for the folks out there who are like, well, my team doesn't want to do change, so what do I do?
Right. Yeah. The first thing that I think of is Taiichi Ono. He was a leader at Toyota, kind of the grandfather of Lean.
Yeah.
And he is, one of his famous quotes is, people must change or the people must change. Right? So it's either change the way you do it or we change who's going to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's... and that kind of comes down as kind of heavy-handed, but really there's a lot of persuasion involved. Yeah. And what we're trying to do, again, is improve things. Yeah. And one approach to Lean is, fix what bugs you, and let's make your job easier. Let's make things better for you, right? And as a result, we'll make things better for the customer as well.
Definitely. So, the 10 Commandments, number 2, think yes we can.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the next thing is attack problems and not people, because in business things go wrong all the time, and that's really why we're employed, right? We're solving a problem for somebody, internal customer or external customer, and so we're here to solve problems. And when things go wrong, we want to attack the problem or attack the process, but we want to engage the people. And it's so easy to say what went wrong and kind of have that finger pointing sort of tone, and people feel attacked.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
The defenses go up. Yep.
Right, and now they're not engaged. And Lean is really about getting people engaged in solutions.
Right.
So attack problems, not people, and seek simple solutions.
Yeah.
And keep it as simple as possible. An example of this, I saw a great fixture for holding work orders in a factory. Somebody had this idea, let's build this fixture to do this, but somebody went and got a roll of duct tape and an old box and they just kind of made this thing out of cardboard, and it worked. So they didn't bother changing it. It was just this ratty looking cardboard thing, and they didn't bother making it out of metal or a better material until it started falling apart. But simple solution. Now it doesn't look great, but it gets the job done. It does it very well. And
if it works,
if it works,
it works.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the next thing is stop and fix problems. This is really hard. This is one of the biggest discipline challenges in Lean, because the Toyota model is, there's the slightest little defect with a car, any employee is expected to pull a handle and shut down the production line. That's like a couple of thousand people now stop work. But the idea is you stop and you throw all the resources at that problem, you get it solved, and then you get things up and running again. Because if you don't, now you're dealing with that problem. That problem could lead to a defect or other rework, other problems. It could spread to other people. So it really is, I think, a best practice to stop and fix things.
Yeah, certainly. So, okay, our first 5 of the 10 Commandments. What about the next 5? So 6, use creativity, not capital. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, use creativity, not capital. Some people say use your wits over your wallet, right? So it's about coming up with solutions, kind of clever solutions, using what you have, and spend money kind of as a last resort, right? Because it's really easy. I have an idea, and for only $1,000, I can buy this thing, and we'll try it out, and then it doesn't.
Money at it.
Right. And what happens if that doesn't work, and then another iteration? So, try to be creative, solve problems as simply as possible, and then when you're certain that your countermeasure is effective, then perhaps, if necessary, spend money on it.
Okay, great. Yeah. So creativity first, guys. Definitely. So problems are opportunities in disguise. What a very positive way to go about number 7, going with the positivity train.
Right. Sure. So we're talking about Lean, right? All about continuous improvement, and where do you start? Okay. So there are a lot of different approaches to it. You can start with the biggest problem that's affecting you or the business or the customer, and you just go after that. And the issue is that the problems that come up, and it's really easy to take that as a negative thing, but it's really the signal of what needs to be improved next. And the most in-your-face problem, perhaps just deal with that. There's an expression, if you have to eat a frog, eat it head first, right?
What a great great visual we're giving you guys today.
And if you have to eat a lot of frogs, eat the biggest one first.
There you go.
Yeah. So, but problems really are opportunities because you want to improve everything. So improve the things that are really in the worst condition.
Definitely. Don't be ashamed of those problems either. Everybody's got the problems. So
and really try to see it as an opportunity because it's easy for for problems to get you down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So the next one, the root cause of problems.
Right.
Definitely. Finding that root cause, that's the
so that's the challenge, right? Finding the root cause. And there are all kinds of tools on it, and we can go on for a couple of hours on each tool for root cause discovery. So, one is the simple one is 5 why.
Okay.
Right? And 5 why means you look at a problem, and let's say on a manufacturing line that there's a defect, there's a scratch on something. Why is that scratch there? Well, it was scratched because somebody dropped it. Well, why did somebody drop it? So you want to ask the question why at least 5 times. Not only 5 times, but it's no less than 5 times. And that's probably another workshop. But a really important point for root cause is that human error is never a root cause. Never.
And so then that will lead us to our next one. The wisdom of many is greater than the knowledge of one.
Yeah. So, the message there is collaborate. Even if you think you have the most brilliant solution, seek the input from others, get a team involved, especially if you expect a team to actually carry out, some sort of a solution or an improvement. People people aren't afraid of change, but they're kind of naturally resistant to change forced upon them, right? So getting ideas, not only do we get people engaged, but now morale is up and there's a lot of energy into solving the problem. And, an example of that, an American manufacturer of baby powder, and I don't remember exactly which one this is. There are only a couple of them in the U.S. But there's a story of a couple of executives who are walking through their packaging plant. And this place was, it was lean, it was dialed in, highly profitable. And so these guys their challenge was now that everything is running so well, how do we get it to be more profitable? And they're only talking to themselves as they're walking through this plant. And they walk by a worker on a production line, and he kind of turns over his shoulder and says, make the holes bigger. In the little shaker bottle.
Oh, there you go.
Right?
There you go.
So you never know where the next great idea is going to come from. So bring people in and get their ideas.
And it definitely gives all types of employees and staff members that you have a level of ownership and kind of just maybe a little bit more passionate if they know that their ideas and their voice is being heard. So
people really like to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good, that's great. And so then our last 10 commandments, for those of you scribbling down these notes, there's no final destination on the improvements.
Right. Lean is a journey and there is no end. You're kind of pursuing this ideal state that is, always just a little bit out of reach. So every time that a problem arises, we implement a countermeasure. So that's an improvement. And once that's stabilized, then we want to come back and look at that. And okay, so what's the next iteration of this improvement? And we want to do that over and over and over and keep seeking improvement. So, lean is not a project. It will never be finished. So it's really important to think about it that way. It's kind of like fitness.
Oh, there you go.
Right. Yeah. So, if you went out and bought the, a fitness video and the diet, plan, and then sat on the couch and watched it, you can't expect to be fit. And, at the same time, if you get all motivated, said, I'm going to go out and do this, so I'm going to go out for a run, you can't come back home and say, okay, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right. You're not fit. Well, fitness is about, sustaining it. But it's about the discipline of doing it regularly and making it part of your life. Lean is part of your operational life. It's the way to run an organization, and it's the way for the people to conduct their business. Yeah,
absolutely. And it seems that we have a lot of people in the audience who are very passionate about what you're talking about, because it seems that the majority of you have, in fact, had a 5S audit, as the polls let us know. We did the poll right before the 10 Commandments, and it's definitely more of you have gotten an audit before than not. So kudos for
Fantastic.
You guys, absolutely. And so you guys might know perhaps about the 7 wastes. So whether or not you have had an audit, 7 wastes. This is a pretty. starting with defects, this is an intense list. This is not
Yeah.
as positive maybe as our 10 commandments, but
Right. Well, just think of this as a way to look at the operation. So, the first thing, defects. So, this came from manufacturing. So, and really the Toyota production system is kind of the source of this, right? So, but remember that this can be applied anywhere. So a defect in a product is something that you can typically see, it can be measured, but a defect in, I don't know, healthcare, for instance, might be, somebody, getting an infection, or a defect in, say, the hospitality industry, a dissatisfied customer, right?
so it's however you define it in your
right. So what we
particular
want to
field.
do is try to apply these ideas to the industry you're in,
Okay.
and I think they can be applied. So the waste of defects. So of course something's damaged, it's lost materials and time.
Yeah.
The next is the waste of inventory, and actually, so if you kind of think about it, your inventory, you put money into making something, and now you're going to put it on a shelf, so your money is just sitting on the shelf,
Yeah.
and there's a cost to that money, right? The putting all the effort into something and then not having that actually go to the customer who will find value of it is a waste. The next thing is excess processing. That means kind of touching something or working on it more than is necessary to create value for the customer. So, if your job is to put a cap on a pen, for instance, that should be kind of a one-step process as you move it down the line.
Yeah.
Well, if you have to do it and move it around and maybe twist it on,
Okay.
that's excess processing. It should just go on quickly. So that's what we mean by excess processing. Waiting. So this is a
what is
huge,
waiting?
huge waste. Yeah. So the you can think about it in pretty much any industry, but it's really easy in manufacturing. If somebody's on an assembly line doing nothing, waiting for product to come down so they can perform one step.
Okay.
Right? And I kind of think of a truck driver sitting at a loading dock waiting to take a trailer, but it's
Yeah.
not ready.
Right.
Right? I think of the FedEx driver.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I have to create value for all these other people, but I'm waiting.
Time is money, right? So it's that.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And and the next thing is motion. So excess motion, and that's things like reaching, stepping, more than is necessary to perform the task at hand.
Okay.
Right. So simple things like moving, equipment or tools closer to you is eliminating that waste of motion. Transportation. So motion is kind of movement of a person. Transportation would be moving goods, say through a factory, through a store, whatever it is.
Right.
So an example of that, I had a supplier once. They processed stainless steel components, and they had some really serious delivery issues. We had a hard time getting things delivered on time. A new lean manager came in, took a look at the process, and measured the stainless steel had to travel a little over a mile to get from receiving through the process and out to shipping. They decided to rearrange their equipment, and they got that mile down to 320 feet. And why is that so important? Well, how long does it take to push 1,000 pounds of stainless steel a mile? Right? And how many thousand times a year does that happen? If you think about it, if you're going to pay someone to do that 1,000 times a year, how long does that really take?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, a waste of transportation is just critically important.
Right. And then our final, the excess production.
Excess production. So that's either making too much, more than is necessary right now, or making things too early.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
think of just in time. The best situation, maybe the unreachable ideal state, is to make something and hand it directly to the customer.
Yeah.
Right? And never stops moving.
All about timing.
Yep.
Certainly. Well, we do have a question from one of our viewers, Matt Rellet, if that's how you pronounce it. And he's asking us, I'm new to lean and I'm not in manufacturing. Can you, perhaps, Stephen, if you can give us examples which pertain to the service industry to help understand the context? So maybe just the experiences you've had in service industries, maybe considering the 7 wastes is, I'm assuming Matt means. Yeah.
Sure. So so many different aspects of the service industry. Restaurants come to mind.
Yeah.
Right? Because we all understand them. We've been there. And if you're the customer, how does the waste of waiting affect you? Right? You're waiting for food, whatever it is. There can be a defect, something is not right. So all these things really do apply the waste of transportation in that same scenario. If you want your coffee refilled, but the server has to walk all the way across the restaurant to go get the coffee cup, come all the way back, and then encounter every little thing on the way back, all the requests for help, right? And here you are, but, I just want my coffee, right? So it certainly applies to the service industry. It applies to all industries, really.
Right. Is there perhaps with the service industry, is there something that you've noticed as a trend that's maybe a problem that they continually do have to solve that you've seen?
Well, to say that there's one one particular problem to solve. We're always looking for customer satisfaction, and I think and I think when we fail to do that, whenever there's a problem, I think there's a really good chance that one of the 7 wastes is involved.
Yeah, certainly. So I hope that answered your question, Matt, definitely. Yeah. And that will lead us, though, to this mysterious 8th waste that I've been dying to ask you about. What is the 8th waste?
Some people refer to the waste as just the 8 waste. And I think, I think early kind of ideas of lean or that label of lean, it started out as seven waste. And the difference, really different, is that the 7 wastes are really about the material, the processes, kind of the nuts and bolts of the operation. Right. The 8th waste is about people, and that's why I like to keep it separated, because I think that the 8th waste really deserves the focus, because people are the most important thing. And underutilized talent or ability is an incredible waste. People have a lot of talent. People like to be challenged. I like to encourage people to never underestimate what your people are capable of.
Right.
Challenge them, let them learn, and let them contribute their ideas. People want to contribute. They want to be part of part of the organization and part of solutions.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think it just deserves a little special focus.
Right. And so for these the 7 and the 8th waste and everything, maybe specifying this context instead of just kind of lean strategies, but maybe into the 5S realm. What I guess how would we put this in just like the 5S terms versus?
Well, 5S contributes, or I should say, the lack of 5S contributes to waste.
Okay.
So, so 5S, we're talking about, really, keep the workplace clean, keep it organized, develop standards for it, and make things really simple. But if you think about, having a really cluttered work environment, right? And you need a particular tool to perform one function. Well, where do you find that tool on a really cluttered workbench, right? And if you don't find it, are you sure it's not on that workbench buried? Is it somewhere else?
Definitely.
Right. So there's a waste of waiting.
Okay.
The underutilized talent, right? So you have a highly skilled person that's not creating value.
Okay.
Right. So
absolutely.
yeah. So we'll get into some of those details.
Great. Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Joining us today.
Yeah.
Which is our next point. Maybe you can guide us through these points you've got here with Henry.
Yeah. So 5S. I mean, the Japanese Toyota, but the Japanese are really credited with bringing 5S as a discipline and bringing that to the U.S. And the 5S's, and they're really 5 Japanese terms that begin with S, and we've translated it into English, and the English terms coincidentally start with S. Right. But if you go kind of back a little farther in history, Henry Ford had a system he called Can Do. Clean up, arrange, neatness, discipline, and ongoing improvement. Exactly the same thing, just different words, but the ideas are there, right? Yeah. So this is really, really early 5S.
So you want to think of Can Do with Henry Ford if you're
right. And it's really easy. Lean is about simplicity, right? We want to remove complexity as much as possible, and when we put really formal labels on things, we can really add complexity, perhaps, or make it seem like it's more difficult than it is.
Right.
And so I like the Henry Ford Can Do because it's simple: clean up, get things arranged, right? Keep it neat, have the discipline for ongoing improvement. Right. Yeah,
definitely. Well, we do have our next poll coming up. So for those audience members, we would like to ask if you could perhaps rate the cleanliness and the organization of your workplace. Some of the options we have here, and be very, very honest. We've got everything from you could eat off the table to maybe quarters is a little bit too familiar with your lifestyle. I don't know. It's okay. No judgment in this space at all. But yeah, we're excited to see where you guys are at for sure. So we'll get those answers in just a minute. And then I like this slide, this upcoming one. What is 5S? So again, there's sort, sustain, standardize, shine, and straighten. So they see, or I'm reading it the wrong way. We're going to go clockwise. They all affect each other is what I'm
right. So it's kind of it's kind of a cycle, right? But it kind of breaks that into two sections, right? Sort, straighten, shine, right? So think about the garage. Cleaning the garage. I mean, sort things out, get things nice and neat, sweep the floors, keep it clean, right? And then you move into the hard part of standardize and sustain. I mean, doing things the same way, maybe having some rules.
Yeah.
I have this rule that I try to achieve in my garage, and I'm going to come off as a total lean freak here, but so my rule is everything on the garage floor has to have wheels.
Okay.
So if I need to clean, I can just.
There you go.
Sweep, put things back, because of things, dust collects in there.
Definitely.
And so one of the things about clutter, you put one thing down and then that becomes the place to put the things that don't have a home, and and then it starts growing from there.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Lean is a lifestyle, so.
Right. So these are the 5 terms that in Japanese started with S, but sort, straighten, shine, standardize, sustain. Some people refer to the straighten part as set in order, and I think that's a really good concept to keep in mind as well.
Definitely. So, quick question of mine, because my background is not in 5S or lean or anything, but if you were to get a 5S auditor, are these kind of the 5 points that they would perhaps rate you on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So how would, for those of you who hadn't gotten an auditor, and there were a good healthy of folks who said no to that, what would you expect when an auditor walks onto your space and says, okay, here are the 5 things I'm going to care about.
Right.
What should they anticipate in that process?
Well, so sort, for instance, there might be a few categories that you have a place for everything, and things are neatly organized. You have a place for red tagging, which is a concept we'll get into.
Oh, yeah.
What happens when you have something that doesn't belong? Do you have a process for handling it? So it's not as important that it's actually handled. It's more important that the process is in place.
Okay.
So those are the things that an auditor would look for. And there's a section on conducting the audit up ahead, but just a quick note to think about as we get there is you never want management or leadership to be doing the audit, because that kind of comes down as like this correctional, authoritative thing. You want team members to do it, right? And then the leader's role would be in teaching, right? So if a leader sees something that's not right, they see the audit, then it's about, hey, did you see this? And let me show you how this applies, right? Yeah. And then let people go ahead and conduct their audit.
Definitely, and I assume the auditing process is very industry specific. Are you?
It's actually pretty general.
Okay.
I mean, the great thing about lean is there's always a better way, and we like to credit Toyota with being kind of like the starting point of lean, but it would be a mistake to think that you're going to be Toyota. You won't.
Right.
You have your culture, your company, your people, and what we want to do is take these more general concepts and apply it the best way you can in your environment, and then improve.
Great. We have our next question from Lennon Garcia. How does the 5S help us to avoid or eliminate the 8 wastes? So, how does 5S help you?
Right. So we'll see some photos coming up. But if you imagine a perfectly organized environment, and something was out of place, it stands out. When I worked in the motorcycle industry, we worked in a really small space, in kind of a narrow shipping receiving space, and we had tables mounted on the walls and opposite each other. One side was receiving, one side was shipping.
Right.
And the rule was nothing belongs on the tables. So of course, why are the tables there, right?
Yeah.
Well, the tables are there to help you do your work while you're doing your work.
Okay.
Right? So if something remains at the end of the day, if there was something on that table, we couldn't leave until the table was perfectly clean, because that told us work was undone. A customer wasn't served, right? Something didn't get shipped, something didn't get put where it belonged. So it's an indicator of, it makes things stand out. If things aren't done correctly or forgotten, not put away, So
Right.
the waste of looking for a tool we talked about before. So if we see a place where a tool belongs and it's not there, well, let's not leave until we find that tool and put it back.
Yeah.
Right? Or if we see a tool on a workbench, then it's where does it belong and let me go put it away.
Definitely. Okay, so then that leads us to Ms. Garcia's question. Understanding 5S. So we love our garage
Yeah.
story, definitely cleaning the garage. And so like you've said before, sort, straighten, and shine, definitely. And then I'm curious about the real challenge is the standardizing and sustaining. Are those
Right.
the two that you
Right.
see as?
Yeah, I do, and I think I think people know how to clean a garage, right? And so we sort things. We throw the garbage out. We keep the things that we want. We find a place for it, and we make it all nice and neat.
Yeah.
We make everything clean, but our standardized and sustain really a challenge. And if you've ever cleaned your garage more than once, the answer is yes, it is, right? Because
Yeah.
otherwise you would have cleaned your garage once and it would have been sustained perfectly.
Right.
And there are some places where I think 5S tends to occur a little more naturally,
Okay.
and some places where it doesn't. So if you, in the home, if you think about the process of just having a meal, you pull pots and pans out, you get it messy, you cook, you serve your meal, you eat, you do the dishes, put things away. When you're done, the
Yeah.
kitchen's back to the way it was, right?
Right.
And it's clean. But for some reason, the garage seems to be this kind of place for clutter. It doesn't really belong anywhere in the house, so we go put it there, and
Definitely.
it starts piling up. Well, we see the same thing in workplaces, right? So, and that tends to be some place where maybe somebody's not responsible for it,
Right.
or a warehouse, an empty room, a closet. Things can get really out of hand. So the challenge is in creating standards that, okay, we've cleaned things. Now, how do we keep it clean, and then how do we improve it?
Okay.
Right. So that's really, I think, the big part of the discussion today.
Certainly. So let's get into that discussion. We're going to start with sorting out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, So here's a takeaway: the recycle bin is your friend. And when I was an operations manager at a factory in Michigan, we had a 5,000 square foot warehouse where we had this beautiful painted, polished floor like an aircraft hangar.
Yeah.
And we had this big space where somebody put a box of, here are things that we're not really sure where they belong, put it in this little taped box on the floor, and things started to collect there. And then that pile got bigger and bigger and bigger over time, to the point that literally you couldn't see past it. It was just this big pile of fixtures, cabinets, equipment. It was, nobody wanted to throw anything away. So, we went out there and said, hey, we need to start sorting things out. We need to throw things away. And that's a matter of kind of, does this thing really have value for us or not? So what we want to be able to do is identify the trash. If it's truly trash, toss it.
Yeah.
If you can repurpose something, repurpose it, donate it, recycle it, create value for humanity in some way with what you might consider garbage, right? Because
Right.
one person's trash is another person's treasure,
Absolutely.
right? But we want to get that clutter out of the way first. That's the kind of the first step.
Yeah. And just to pause for a minute, because we have our poll results to see who's a hoarder and who's not. Surprisingly, only one of you guys was a hoarder, so that's good to know. But in terms of cleanliness, we didn't have anybody who was immaculate, but that's okay. We're all human, right? But there is neat with occasional clutter with a whopping lead. So good job, you guys. Almost there. Continuous improvement. Maybe
Yeah.
one day we can start eating off those tables.
Yeah.
But it looks like most people in the audience are fairly on top of things, which is really nice. So again, with the sorting out, you mentioned red tag earlier. Now,
Right.
what is red tag? I get a little nervous with red tags. Those usually mean bad things.
Right. Well, it's meant to highlight it, and so it doesn't mean anything bad. So, we're talking about throwing things out. So you have a team of people, trying to clean a place up. You pick something up, and everybody decides, hey, that's clearly garbage. Just
Right.
get rid of it. So no problem there. Well, what about things that you're not sure about? Or one person says get rid of it, and another person says no, that's valuable.
Yeah.
So do we actually use it? So that's the real test. Do we really use it?
Definitely.
So what we want to do is put a red tag on it, and they're pre-printed tags. You can buy them at 5S sites and that kind of thing. But you put a date that you put the tag on, what this thing is, what the value is, where it's used, who owns it, that kind of thing. And
they look like these little red tags that we have pulled up here. By little, actually, they're kind of big. They're pretty alarming.
Yeah, so you put a red tag on it and then identify a space for things that you've red tagged.
Okay.
And what we want to do is put it there and leave it there for a period of time, say 90 days.
Okay.
And if nobody's taken it in 90 days and it's still sitting there,
Yep.
maybe it's time to get rid of it.
Yep.
At the same time, make sure everybody knows there's a red tag area. So if you need something, go there first. So say if somebody needs a chair, you just go grab that chair, take the tag off. Now there's a log that goes along with it. You create a tag, there's a list. So you want to log those things.
Okay.
So if somebody uses it, take the chair, cross it off the log, it's back in use, no problem.
Right.
At the same time, you have something, it doesn't have a home, you don't know what to do with it, put a red tag on it, put it in this area, call it good.
Very nice, very nice. And so after you've quarantined those red tagged items, maybe let's talk about straighten. I love these color binders. They're very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. Okay, so you sorted out the clutter, right? So you're left with the things that you know provide some value. So you want to straighten things. And, the image we have here with the binders. So if you imagine that you had to find a document, and to be color-coded perhaps, but you walk into this room and immediately I would have the confidence I can find this, right?
Yeah.
But if things are kind of disheveled, it's not, it's straightened up, I would immediately feel a little bit challenged, and now it's kind of a burden to find it, right?
Yeah.
And now,
you're not engaged.
I've got 5 different things to do.
Right.
This looks like it's going to take the most time. I'm going to something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Getting pushed on the back burner. Indefinitely.
Yeah. So so that's the idea, but I think it's pretty intuitive. Straighten things up, But remember, we talked about set and order. That's another way to think about the straighten too, and that's really important in the workplace. So the next slide has an example of the set and order. So is it straightened up? It absolutely is. But this is a tool set for a cutting machine in a factory that I've worked in. And the great thing about this, of course, it's neat, but it's set in order such that we have all of the dies for that equipment. It's set up in the order that it's used through the adjustment process.
Great.
Everything on that shelf is used for that cutting process, and everything used for that cutting process is on that shelf. So the importance of that is reducing the downtime of making adjustments to the machine. If you need to pull a die out and replace it with another, you already know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
You know exactly the reach. I mean, you can move, and it's very simple. So if things were cluttered, now that simple process of just swapping out a die could take minutes as opposed to seconds.
Definitely. We do have another question from Zach Mitchell, and this is a great question from being on the Dozuki side. Zach's asking us, how can I use Dozuki to help implement 5S? And so with our documentation software, how would you, what maybe are the benefits that you could get out of the Dozuki software for 5S if you're familiar with it?
Well, I think maybe coming up with a process, your process for sustaining 5S, your audit, your standards being recorded there, having a depository for what your standards are, perhaps. Photographs are a great way to standardize things.
We love photographs here at Dozuki, certainly.
Yeah. So taking a picture, so that shelf, for instance, you take a picture of this is the way it should be, and just put it on the wall. That's all you need. You don't need to write a dissertation on it, and people get it.
Oh,
right?
Certainly. And what I noticed with the binder slide we saw with kind of sorting and everything, I know that the great thing that we've gotten from the Dozuki community as feedback is that Dozuki's very good at making your presentation cleaner. Again, just kind of almost doing that straightening for you instead of getting all those binders and having to organize it. And certainly with past versions of your documentation, I know people don't want to just delete those past documentations, or even if it's out of date or inaccurate, people do like keeping on to their old processes and just having that all on file. And so certainly at Dozuki, we're very much into that. We're supporters of that.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think the recycle bin is your friend.
Yes, absolutely. And so I like this next slide. For Shine, this is your president?
Well, it's not mine. This is a photo of a company in Japan, and so here's this person cleaning the floor, and using a broom or a mop. That's not good enough, right? It can be cleaner. So here's this person cleaning the floor on his hands and knees, and you can see how well that floor shines actually. But the really interesting thing about this is that's the company president doing that, and in this company, all the workers, they come to work 30 minutes before work without pay, and they clean. They clean the whole facility. They do it themselves. But that's the standard. That's their culture to do that. So the important thing about, I think, this photo is, the standards are set at the top, right? So here's the company president. He's not telling people to clean, but he's certainly demonstrating.
Setting the example.
Right.
It is very effective, certainly. And that will lead us to our next poll about your own company's president. So you'll see on your screen pop up our fourth poll. How likely is your company president going to do this? Is he very likely, totally unlikely, no way, in heck, absolutely not? So we're gonna see those results really soon. I'm excited to see how those presidents are out there, if they're on their hands and knees getting that shine out of their floor.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm really happy to say that my company president absolutely would do that, be the first to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And with Dozuki as well, hands-on all the way. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's great. And here's some more folks. Is this from the same company? No, this is a different example. But so the great thing here is, first of all, everybody's involved. And when we're talking about cleaning things, we mean clean everything. Clean the ceiling, the walls, the windows, everything. And when we're cleaning, we're not just trying to get it clean, but we want to make sure things are in the best condition possible. Yeah. And what we're really doing, besides getting ownership and getting people to perform these tasks, we really want to clean to inspect. So if you kind of think about washing your car, and so like on the next slide, the condition of the car, how do you know what kind of condition, say, your tires are in? Yeah. But if you're actually washing it, and the great thing about cleaning is that it forces you not only to look at it, because it's really easy for your eyes to kind of glaze over things. Definitely. But if you're actually touching every single surface to clean it, then you're really examining, and sometimes you feel things that you don't see. Right. Minor defects, minor problems. So that's the real value of clean. Clean to inspect, because we want to anticipate problems. We want to know where maintenance is needed before something breaks. Yeah. Right. So Mr. Miyagi was right this whole time.
Absolutely.
definitely. Hands on. It's forcing you to be thorough, certainly. And so the answers to our latest poll, it seemed like everybody was, it was pretty even keel. There's a whole range of answers for how likely is your company's president going to do that, to clean up and get hands-on and dirty or clean, depending on what you're doing. Very likely he might, unlikely not a chance. The highest answer was he might, so maybe we can kind of persuade. Let's get those active presidents going, certainly. So after shine, we definitely care about standardize. Yeah. So
we've gotten rid of the clutter. We've gotten things nice and neatly arranged. We've cleaned everything. So now, how do we keep it up? How do we make that the standard? So color coding is one way to do it. We've seen places with stripes on the floor, for instance, like an exit path. The yellow lines that lead to a fire exit, for instance. So the standard is nothing stands still between the yellow lines, right? So that's a standard. Creating standard work documents, and again, photographs are great, but you take a photo, if this is the way it looks, and maybe posting that, so using a poster and as standard work. A standardized cleaning list. If you've ever seen the cleaning schedule in a bathroom in a restaurant, for instance, or a hotel, right? That's standard work. And that's how do we know we sustain it? Well, because that document has a schedule on it. Who's going to do it? What needs to be done? What was inspected? Right? That's how we make sure things are sustained. Location control marks. If you think back to that photograph, the company president, it's really hard to see, but there's little blue marks on those tiles, and that was a conference room that gets configured in all kinds of different ways, but everybody knows at the end the table, the legs of the tables go right on those blue marks, and everything's back exactly where it belongs.
Very nice.
Yeah. Position marks and shadow boards, and we'll see some examples of that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. We do have a question that's popping up from Michael Welton. He's asking, what are the main reasons that there might be a 5S program failure? What I guess you've worked with a lot of different industries with 5S.
Right.
What's maybe common mistakes, or just why maybe a program just isn't quite making it?
Right. So it that kind of suggests that there's a problem in the sustain step of it, right? So again, you can get people together and clean things up, and then they all walked away, and then entropy kind of comes in, and it goes back to the way it was.
Yep.
Right. So things start falling apart.
Yeah.
So look at the standards. How well are they communicated? How well are they documented? And documenting things is incredibly important. When you tell somebody don't go through that door, maybe somebody will, right? But when there's a sign on it that says "Do not enter" or "Authorized personnel only," then people tend to respect something that's printed.
Right.
But because you've decided this is the way it's going to be, and part of having that standard is that we follow this process or this standard no matter what. And if there's a better way, we don't do that better way until we change the written standard.
Okay.
So the first step is change that written standard, then
Yeah.
do it the way that you suggested.
Definitely. I think Michael also has a follow-up question. Yeah. So he's asking, how should you facilitate the learning dialogue with a worker to help them with 5S? So I guess, I know we were talking about resistance to change, or maybe employees who aren't engaged, or, feeling
Sure.
kind of that ownership over the process. What are some good tips to get everybody on board?
Well, avoid command and control.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're going to do that. You're going to clean this up. But tie. I think we should tie our actions to kind of the vision. What is it that we're trying to accomplish as an organization? Who are we here to serve? How do we do that best? And then tying the importance of 5S to your goal of serving your customers. Right. So why is this important? And and tying it to ourselves. Life is a lot easier when things are nice and organized for us to work in here as a team. If it were an individual space, your own private little company, do it the way you want.
Yep.
Right? But remember, we're here to support each other.
Definitely.
And I know that I can serve my teammates best by making sure that everything's where it belongs and I'm doing things the way that we've agreed that we're going to do it.
Great. So hopefully that answered your question, Michael. Next is we're going to look at these. We were talking about color coding earlier. These files, I've seen these before. Absolutely, these are popular way to standardize. Certainly. Yeah,
I mean, if you've ever seen the file room in a doctor's office, behind that front desk. So, I mean, the idea here is that patient comes in. There's a file for that patient. Anybody can go immediately to find that patient's file. There's not a lot of digging. They know exactly where it is. And it's based on what they can see at a distance. They don't need to read a label. They can just see the color codes, and they go right to it.
Great.
So color coding is a fantastic standard.
And then, that leaves us a place for everything. So not even just color coding, but just having a spot that everybody agrees on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So exactly, there's a place for everything in its place. So when you need that tool, you want to know where it is. You want to know where to reach for it. So in this image, we can see that one of those silver wrenches is missing. So that's really important. Because when something's missing, you know that you're not wasting time looking for it, right? Yeah. So if you imagine all those tools were in a drawer without the foam cutout, right? But they're all just collected in a drawer, and you have several wrenches, and I'm looking for a 9/16, and where is it? You don't know if it's in there or not, so you keep looking, and just to find out it's somewhere else, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here, if you go back just one, the
what's missing?
Yeah. So just to kind of point out how this can be really important. So this is medication in a healthcare facility.
Okay.
So if we had just the medication, say, in a drawer, and a patient comes in and needs a life-saving medicine right now, do you want somebody looking through that, or is it more, if it's not there, do you want them to know immediately that it's not there and go where you know where it is? So 5S pointing out what's missing is as important as having things in the right place. You know exactly what to go after.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're sharing garage space with people.
Yeah.
Definitely. So everything in its place.
Yeah. So
Major tip.
yeah, everything in its place, and and really examine, learn to see is an expression in lean. So things aren't always what they appear. So it's really easy to look at this image and think, oh, this is great, everything's in its place. But if you look closely, it isn't. The little red box, there's no defined space for it. There's something sitting on top of it. There's something else. There's a set of vice grips under the orange mallet.
Okay.
Right. So that's where we need to learn to see as well. And while it's in this place, and maybe it's very convenient for the process that these tools support, somebody needs to stop and fix the problem. Someone needs to create a space for that, so everybody knows exactly where it goes from now on.
Certainly. That does not look as clean as my toolbox. That's a lot better. I should probably go with that strategy. And then also leads us to sustain, certainly.
Right.
And that's something that you've been driving home for us for a while is sustainability. It's important for everybody, regardless of industry.
Yeah.
Certainly.
So how do you keep this up? So you have everything all nice and neat, and your toolbox is organized, the whole facility is organized, but how do you keep it up? So it really is a team effort, and I think this is an important point as well. Don't make it a leadership effort. Don't make it the boss's job to tell everybody what's wrong. The military inspection model, right? 'Cause it just seems like nothing good comes out of that, right?
Definitely.
So here's an example. This is a picture I took when I worked at SSF.
Okay.
Every day, all leadership got together for a morning meeting. We did it out on the production floor, and at SSF, it's a clean room manufacturing environment. So we go into the clean room, and this is where we deal with our issues. So this is where we look at our metrics, right? And if we want to improve our metrics, on-time delivery, quality, those, it's a good idea to look at 5S first, because it's such a contributor to the 7 wastes. The 7 wastes then impact your metrics. So this is the action board, and this is where somebody has an issue. The vice grips, we don't have a place for this. We would write down an action item, we put it on the board and assign it to somebody. So we say, Steve, you need to come up with a place for these vice grips. And on that action board, there's a column for every day of the month. And today's the 21st. You need to have this done by the 24th. And then on the 24th, we go through all of those action items. And is this done? Is this done? Right? And if it isn't, then we start moving it out. But there's a system for sustaining, and that's the key, is that there's a system. And it's not a person to do it. It's not somebody demanding it, but it's a system that we all use and that we all...
Everybody.
Absolutely. And the great thing about this is, I was the leader in this environment, but I did not lead the meeting. And that was kind of a rule that I would be there, and my job was to offer support, but it wasn't to me to lead it, that the team leads it.
Yeah. Definitely. So just kind of going on the sustainability.
Right.
This checklist is our checklists. That's a good
it's a good
to
thing.
Implement.
Yeah.
Right?
So here we're creating a system, right? There's a process for making sure that we're looking at things the way we should, and we're actually taking action on the things that need to be improved. Right. So this is what we would use in an audit.
Okay.
So the leader's role might be in helping people develop this audit form, and maybe helping develop a schedule for people to do it, and a system. But it's really up to the people who own the area to do it. And sometimes it's great to develop a team, get somebody from outside that area, because new eyes, they see things that the people in that area don't see. But here you were talking about, so how do you know what to check? Right. So
definitely.
on this form, you can see there, if you can see it clearly, there's a section for sort, a few things to evaluate, straighten, sweep, and anything that gets a yes, well, we take an action on that. Something is, or I should say, a no. So, is there a system for red tagging, for instance? Well, no. Okay, that tells us we need to take action. Let's sustain that. Maybe our system broke down. Right. So let's get back on it. So it's have the discipline of doing that.
Yeah. And when in doubt, always listen to Aristotle.
Right.
What we repeatedly do, experience then, is not an act, but a habit. Good words to live by.
Right. Yeah. So
should be a T-shirt. You should walk around wearing that whenever you
help
people out.
And this really speaks to lean, right? Because again, you clean the garage once. Okay, well, that's not excellence. Keeping it that way
Right.
perhaps is, and assuming that you're actually using it, right? So it's developing the system to have multiple people be able to do it, and the discipline, the habits of doing it regularly and keeping it going.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We did have a question about this would go definitely well with sustainability and everything that we've talked about so far. So when it came to sorting and having all those items organized, let's say, great, you've implemented a nice kind of organizational system. Zach Mitchell is asking, how do you combat when items are not returned? So right, you've set it up. Now the moment of sustainability, the moment of truth. What do you do if maybe your employees aren't kind of following through with the implemented system? Right.
Yeah. So sometimes being a little bit hard-nosed is good, right? And it's about creating the standard.
Right.
So back to the example when I was in the motorcycle business where I had nothing stays on those tables, right?
Yeah.
So the rule is before you have the problem. You come up with your standards before you have the problem. And so the rule was we don't leave until those tables are clean. So regardless of how long we've worked, those things are cleaned every day. So that's how we would sustain our level of excellence, right? But you come up with your own rules and have the team create those rules as well.
Definitely. And then another question we've got from Brian O'Flynn on a different note about audits. How often should you be performing a 5S audit? How frequently do these come around?
I think there is no one way to do anything in Lean, right? So it's about the general concept.
Okay.
I say do it as often as it adds value.
Okay.
Right? So early on, maybe it's every day, right?
Okay.
Until you develop that culture, that discipline of everybody's putting things away. So again, maybe you have a factory or a packaging operation, and your rule is keep your tabletops clean by the end of the day. You might need to do that every single day until you get that going, and then maybe it's once a week, once a month. But you do it often enough to add value and to avoid entropy.
Is there ever a time, though, I suspect that if you're doing audits at a very frequent rate, they might lose their potency, that people would kind of say, oh, okay, I'm another audit today, or have you ever come across that where people kind of don't get nervous about the word audit anymore? And
right. Well, so there's a leadership, I think a leadership issue there. And leadership really is a lot about what do you demonstrate and what do you tolerate, right? So if you say, we're 5S, but come into my office and you see that it's a complete disaster, right? So what are you demonstrating? And when you have these team ground rules of we don't leave until it's at the end of the day until it's clean, what do you tolerate? If you let it go one time, that's the crack in the dam, right?
There you go. Definitely. So that is a perfect segue into our next point, standards and expectations. What does a clean and extremely organized workplace say about the organization?
Right. So, I look at these photos, and these are photos of other facilities. I haven't worked in them, but I see 5S all over it. And one thing I'm sure of is that this didn't happen in a single event. People didn't just clean it, and this is the way it was. I mean, this was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small improvements. So we maybe started off with clean, but the image on the left there, you see the yellow markings on the floor. That's easy to establish early on, developing the discipline that nothing goes into those aisles. If you look down, you see that there's a pallet kind of down the distance right at the very edge. They're maximizing their space, but they respect their limits. The image on the right, we can see that table there is really very telling. I can tell that this organization is highly disciplined. The tabletop is perfectly clean. There's no debris, no tools. There's a place for everything. And notice the blue box and the green box on either side of that scale. So there's one unit upstream of the measurement process, and there's one unit downstream. So when the downstream person takes a product out of the green box, now take one out of the blue box, weigh it, put it in the green box. But you don't produce any faster than that. Right? The standard work, so the work instructions are on that little stand there at the edge of the table on the back edge, right? So everything is very organized, everything is immediately within reach. And when you walk into there, say you're a new employee, and how sloppy is this operation? I mean, just 2 seconds in there, you see that, okay, these people have it together. I'm expected to perform, and there's a right way to do everything here.
Yeah.
That's what I get out of that photo.
Great. We're moving along since we are pushing time just a little bit. We're bringing up the 7 wastes again, so I assume just kind of in relation to the photos that we saw. They're doing pretty well with all 7, huh?
Right. So if you think of the opposite, right, just a really messy place, how does how do those tie into the 7 wastes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really what we're thinking about.
Keeping those in mind. Yeah. Gotta tattoo them on you. Just always have them thinking about it for sure. And then, so why is 5S a launch pad to lean? So maybe if we can kind of marry these two concepts that are very, very similar. The conversations are kind of revolving around each other a lot, 5S and lean. So
So yeah, 5S is a really a small portion of the greater lean philosophy, right? But it takes discipline, it takes systems, it takes standards, and it's that repetitive consistency. And the reason that I think of it as a launch pad to lean is that you can see how good you are at those disciplines, at your standards with 5S, because you walk into the room and you see it immediately. You don't need to dig to figure out how good your culture is at these concepts. So mastering that first, you can see it, you can see how good you are at it, and now you're ready to take on more complicated lean concepts and applying those same concepts.
Definitely. And then certainly lean is international. Definitely.
Intentional.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Intentional. I keep reading things wrong today.
Yeah.
Lean is intentional. And yeah, definitely long-term thinking.
Right.
You mentioned that a lot with sustainability. That's a big thing.
So back to the fitness example, right? I mean, you have to make a point to exercise regularly, maybe eat right? So yeah, it involves long-term thinking. So the stop and fix problems. Well, this one might take longer, but I'm going to improve things over the long term if I do it now. Creating standard work, consistency. Yeah, and focus on your culture. This isn't about how an individual does it.
Yeah.
This is how the organization does it, right? And you want to think about the team as a whole.
Right. Considering everybody, not just the higher ups and things like that.
You're not going to do it overnight. It's not gradual. It's very gradual. Yeah. Don't worry about the massive improvements. There's a great lean leader by the name of Paul Akers. He owns a company called FastCap in Washington. He wrote a book called 2 Second Lean. And he goes around his plant every day and he asks every employee to remove 2 seconds of work out of their job every single day. So out of 8 hours, reduce your work by 2 seconds. Tiny improvements, but everybody doing it every day, before you know it, you have drastic improvements and make things a lot better. And people can handle the small improvements.
Right.
The bigger things, it takes teams, it takes approvals, it takes money. Focus on the little things, fix what bugs you, and be patient. One step at a time. And the last thing, it's a never-ending way of operating.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it's not a project to be completed. This is just the way we do it.
Certainly. And then we have another question from an audience member. I'm so excited about this engaging audience today. This is fantastic. Jeremy Volman. He wants to know, how does one find a lean mentor when one can't be found within his or her organization? Do you have any tips on that?
Sure. My first thought is the Association for Manufacturing Excellence. It's a nonprofit organization worldwide.
Great.
And they're all about sharing ideas, learning, and growing. And from there, maybe you can find local lean learning consortiums.
Okay.
And there are people, we have one here on the Central Coast, Central Coast Lean. There's no cost involved, but it's just lean practitioners getting together, sharing ideas, learning from each other, taking factory tours or office tours, that kind of thing, and learning and growing. So it's a community. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yep. Right on that collaboration train that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And then for those who are dying to know now, we're nearing the end of our presentation today. How do I start? So we've got great information that's been flown around for the last 45 minutes or so. How does one just even dive into this intense world?
Sure.
Certainly.
So, identify a problem to solve. Lean's all about continuous improvement. So, find a problem to solve. And maybe solve isn't really the right word. You've got a problem, implement a countermeasure, make it better, improve, and then the next iteration, improve that and improve and improve and improve. So you can start there with the whole 5S thing. If you're a leader, it's a lot easier to make a lot of people do the 5S
Right.
thing. If you're not a leader, you can set a standard or you can demonstrate it by making your area 5S, and then you can kind of share that idea through what it is that you demonstrate.
Yeah.
So an important thing, anticipate conflict. We're dealing with people,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, back to my example of cleaning up the warehouse, right? It's taking
Right.
something that was really valuable and somebody would say, no, we bought that for, we spent $1,000 on that, don't throw it away. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, but you bought it 10 years ago and no one's ever touched it.
Definitely.
Time to repurpose it. So there's going to be conflict. So when that happens, take a breath, take a step back, compromise. When in doubt, put a red tag on it, wait, and let's see if anybody finds value in it. But these things are going to happen, and just I can't emphasize enough. We're dealing with people, and Lean is about supporting people. So small incremental improvements. Again, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? And it's just the next step. Don't worry about the finish line. There isn't one.
Yeah.
But just make the next step. Just get closer to your ideal state. It might be unreachable, but just keep working toward it.
Right,
Be consistent with that.
Consistency.
Right. So again, this is how we work, right? And it's not a task to be done. It's an idea. It's a philosophy. It's an approach to working. This is the way we do it.
Yep.
So be persistent, because things will go wrong.
Does it inevitably do something?
Yeah, one step forward, two steps back. You can feel that way a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Be persistent. And a really big thing is celebrate success.
Right.
When you accomplish something, make a big deal out of it. You sort things out. And one of the things we did in our warehouse, we had a lot of steel scrap. We took that to a recycle facility, got a few $100s for it. For the company as a whole, that few $100 didn't mean much. So we hired a hot dog vendor to bring his hot dog cart to work, and we had a great lunch with it, right?
Nice.
But it was to celebrate what it is that we accomplished.
What a great idea.
Yeah, and then the last thing is relax, because there is no finish line. You're looking to improve, and that should be no matter how good you get. You
Right.
should continuously
Yep.
seek to improve. Toyota's a great example of it. They're thought of as the example of Lean, and they improve every single day, and it never stops. So.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. We're going to just answer a couple questions in our final kind of moments together. And again, for those of you who are either feeding the questions through online right now live, that's fantastic. Keep it up. Or if you need a mull on your Q&A right now, again, my email address and Steven's email address is right there at the bottom for you to jot down and pull, and so that way you can communicate with us continuously after this is over. We do have another place for you to ask questions as well. Dozuki hosts a variety of answer forums for you. So if you go to dozuki.com/answers/ask/Lean, what a tongue twister. As you can think, thank God it's up there so you can read it instead of just listening to me speak like a crazy person. If you just go there, then you can kind of see the forum, maybe talk to the rest of the community, the rest of the audience, and everyone else about all your Lean and 5S concerns, certainly. So we are going to start with a question from Matt Thingbenner. He's asking, the 5S primarily is a money-making process, and if so, have you ever seen a point where 5S cleanliness starts to lose you money?
Well, I would argue that Lean really isn't about creating more profit. It's about improvement in adding value for your customer.
Right.
And you will get to the point that eventually, through adding more value and eliminating waste, that the profits will come. So I caution people about trying to apply 5S or any other Lean tool and then expecting to see it, in the financial statements. You won't. You won't see it immediately. You're not going to do a 5S exercise and then next month you're going to see more profit. That's not going to happen. What you will see, if you're very good at it and you really achieve a level of excellence, of continuous improvement over time, you will see things improve. But something that is common in Lean is making a Lean change, implementing a change, and actually you see performance go down.
Okay.
Initially, right? Everybody's learning a new way of doing things, and maybe it's slowing them down. And it's not until they learn the new process that they actually are able to kind of get their momentum up and going, and then really see an improvement.
I see. Thank you. The next question we've got, how to implement 5S when people don't know what lean is. So I guess we got to start from the basic is how do you implement it if people don't know what, or they're not familiar with lean, maybe?
Yeah, there are a couple of approaches to it. First, you can educate everybody on 5S, and of course Gemba Academy is a fantastic way to do that. But you can learn what it is. But if a leader understands it, you can also just kind of go into an area and say, hey, look, I think work would be a lot easier if we clean things up and let's get it organized. And as Nike used to say, just do it.
Yep.
Right. Don't worry so much about it. But somebody needs to know what they're trying to accomplish, and then it's a matter of leading people and keeping those people connected to the vision. Hey, look, let's make this a really organized workspace, and let's work at it every day. And then how do we do this and start applying things like the standardization and the audits and that kind of thing.
I mean, I the concepts within lean are pretty understandable for everybody. We can all get on the train that probably cleanliness is a good thing. So it's definitely a lot of it has to do with about just kind of formalizing that process though, and making it like you said, very intentional, and turning those concepts we can all agree in, and then saying, hey, all right, as a group, let's just get this done. Certainly, absolutely. We're going to answer just one more question since we are running over a little bit of time. Thank you everybody for sticking with us. Our last one is a question. My boss doesn't have time to listen to this. How do I quickly convince him 5S is worth doing? So if you had to give a quick pitch to somebody, what was maybe some of the maybe 2 or 3 points you'd really want to drive home with them?
Well, do you really need your boss in order to make this happen? Right? Can you just do it? Can you just clean up? Right? Can you just make improvements every day? Do you need permission to do that? If you really do need support from the boss, learn, speak to people in the language they understand, right? So if your boss, say, is accountant or accounting focused, speak in terms of money. Right? If your boss is process, speak in terms of process. How can we improve this process? If your boss is, maybe more HR sort of oriented, let's focus on how this affects people, how it affects morale, retention. Right? So if you speak to those things, then you start getting the support of, what? And boss, it's really not that hard. We can just work at it a little bit every day, and we'll start making some big improvements. And maybe try to sell it that way.
Definitely. Well, thank you again so much, Stephen, for being with us today. This was a great Dozuki workshop that we had, record-breaking audience numbers. So we're really thrilled that you could stop by and chat with us about your expertise, certainly.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, please feel free to contact either one of us or go onto the Dozuki forum. Under answers, we've got a variety of different forms for you to get involved with, whether it is lean that you're worried about or 5S. And then again, we've got the forums for everything else from photography to gauging employees and all that good stuff. So we hope to see you on the internet somewhere asking those questions. And Stephen and I will be combing through them and making sure we've answered everybody's concerns. But thank you for joining us. Have a happy October. We're already in the fall. Happy Halloween to everyone, since we won't see you before Halloween again. But yes, so thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye now.